Hey everyone, welcome back to AWS Connections. My name is Nick Raboy, and with me I'm joined by
Michael Palermo. Great to be here today, for sure.
so we're live, and maybe since this is a little different than our typical episode, you want to share with where you're at, Michael, right now?
Yes, I am very excited to say that I am in Mexico City, Mexico, to attend the AWS Summit that is going to be happening all day tomorrow. And I just have to call out Peter. Peter, are you around somewhere? Can we say hello to you? I wanted to definitely call him out and say, hey, he is done a lot of work to make it possible for us to still have this live. I'm in the hotel room, and he has made that all work. So technical kudos to Peter for producing today's episode.
I paid Michael to say that for me.
No, he didn't.
Yeah, so just to reiterate, though, we are live, so that means go ahead and ask questions, give us suggestions, say hi, try to find flaws in our code or whatever it may be. we want to engage with you. So in regards to the chat, we do have a few mods in the chat. So Peter, of course, is in the background as here dev.
I am.
I'm gonna be lurking around in the chat as well.
I'm gonna fade back into the chat. So if anything else comes up, I might appear like this, but I'll probably be in the background until then. Goodbye.
All right. Yeah, bye-bye. Yeah, so there's a few of us in the chat. So if you have questions, we'll either answer you directly in the chat or we'll bring it up and see if Michael can answer it for us as well. If you want to show your support to the show, first of all, at the very least, go ahead and click that follow button. Following us will give you notifications every time we're about to go live, and you'll never miss out on an episode. Or if you want to support the show, you can also choose to subscribe to the show, which would be donating bits to the show, which we'll then use towards the CARE International Relief Fund. So if you want to support a good cause, that is an option for you. As far as what we're doing today, I think Michael would be best at describing that. What do you think, Michael?
Sure. Well, first of all, this is episode number 4 of our series here on AWS with Serverless. And what we've discussed so far are things like how to use our map image, how to use our geocoding service, how to use places, which is what we did last week. Now we're going to be talking about the weather, or as they would say here in Mexico, hablemos del clima. You know, that's what we're going to be doing. And I'm so excited to talk about this topic because it's one of those things that you want the latest or the most current piece of weather information that you want to share. It could even be something you factor into algorithms in your app, or it could just be a nice, friendly thing that you're providing as an additional service to something that you might be providing for your customers when you're developing using APIs, and especially location-based APIs. So with that said, I'd say let's go ahead and switch gears and go over to my screen where I can show the weather API, the one that we're going to be discussing today.
Awesome. We see your screen, so go for it.
Excellent. So where I'm at right now, I'm at our developer.here.com, and in our RESTful APIs, I'm looking specifically at the destination weather API. And I just want to draw attention that this very specific call that I wanted to highlight in our episode today was one where if we supply the latitude and longitude, I want to get whatever is currently the temperature or the weather information at that location. So that's what this is. So, you know, it provides me the RESTful API URL I can use, and then along with certain parameters. This product is called Observation. There's other type of products that I'll show you in just a moment, but when I say observation, I'm literally saying give me the current status of that location. I provide the latitude, the longitude. The one observation equals true means if it happens to be that the area that I'm selecting to look at is served by multiple areas, meaning that perhaps there's a weather reporting station that reports to multiple areas, then show me all those areas that are impacted by that weather station, or just show me the one that is closest to the latitude and longitude. Does that make sense there?
Makes sense to me.
Okay, so it's true right now, so it says just return one response. And then of course your app ID and app code. So that's the basis for what we're going to be doing in most of our episode. However, I also want to call out some of the other things that are kind of fun. You can see here there's like a 7-day forecast.
Sure.
So this could be something really nice to highlight here. Let me pull that up. And again, just as you think it would do, it just gives you all the information. This is like the response for each one of those 7 days that follows for wherever you're asking. But notice that in this situation, I'm providing a name as opposed to a lat long. For those that are interested, you could also alternatively provide the lat long for this as well. So it's interchangeable, but it's just showing a name here.
So yes. Let me ask you then.
Please.
So if you provide a name and you say something vague, is it going to return multiple results if it detects that you've used a city that may exist 10 other places in 10 other countries?
Yes. So you'll see in a little bit that there's an array of potential places that could come back, and that's what it'll do, and it'll just make its best guess.
Sure.
Probably much like our geocoder does.
Got it.
There's another one that's interesting. This product is called, I like the name of this, Forecast Astronomy. And the reason why it's called that is because what you're really asking for are all these pieces of data that we can see here in the response, which is like, for that particular location, when will the sun be up? When will it go down? Also handles the moon, the phases of the moon. So I just like to bring those things out to you just in case, you never know that might be something that could be intriguing for your app. So it's not just about current weather at a place. It could be a lot of additional information.
Got it.
All right. So now I'm going to switch gears again, and I'm going to go over to our code view. What I'd like to show, Nick, is I've already built a template that would call our RESTful API, the one that we just looked at. You'll notice here that I'm supplying my app ID. I'm supplying my app code.
Yep.
This is the weather API that we were looking at. And I have this display just in case I was going to use it. In fact, I think that's actually not even, oh yeah, I have it up here. Just in case I wanted to write something to display, I just wanted to have it in there. So I end up not using that, by the way.
Sure.
So I have lat and long I'm providing. I think this is somewhere in Arizona. I'm saying my product is going to be observation. And the reason why I'm not just putting all of that in this API directly is mostly because it would get so long at the end here. I'm kind of doing this more for our benefit as we're talking it through. So you can see API here begins with this API that we have on this line 13. Then I have a question mark. Product is going to equal whatever product I put here, which is observation. Our latitude will equal, our values here and so forth. So that would be our call. Now, granted, there is something missing in here. Do you know what's missing?
No, it's not coming to me.
So I would need to add our app ID.
Ah, there you go.
So, that's a mistake you don't want to make.
No.
Our app ID, pardon. And our app code. So it still was long, providing those values, and that is our app code. There we go.
Perfect.
All right. So with that done, so I have app ID, I have the whole thing, and then of course using my new favorite thing in JavaScript, our fetch.
Yep.
I'm going to fetch that URL. You'll notice that there's not going to be anything visual on the screen. I'm just literally going to do a console.log of our response or any errors. That's it. So with all of that saved, let's now take a look at this page, and I will pull up our side. Now, it says our access to our fetch. It's basically giving me a no access control allow origin header. We've seen this on previous episodes.
Oh yeah, it comes up way too much.
It really does. Cores is so fun, So here's what's interesting. We usually see this, however, when we're trying to test something from AWS, right? In all of our previous episodes, it's been when trying to make the call to our serverless function resting in a Lambda function, right? We sometimes have these issues. But notice this is purely a call to our own API. Yeah. So the simple truth of the matter is that at this time, this API really requires or is not supporting a direct call from the browser. I mean, that's just the simple truth of it. And I think we've even chatted about this prior to this episode and say, we are working on this. So we intend for this to get fixed.
But the browser is just a small subset of all of the possible devices that could be communicating with this API, right?
Absolutely. Like in many cases, it's going to be your mobile apps, or it's going to be your serverless environments or services where these kind of calls are being made. So it does represent small. Nonetheless, we'd like to see the support for everything. But until then, what can we do? So it's interesting. We just had a new team member join our team. I'd like to call him out. Ray Camden is a new evangelist on our team. So
maybe he's on the line. I don't know.
He could be. It's possible. But we chatted on this, and he says, you know what I would do? And he's such an awesome coder. You two, I can see you two getting along really good, because he's like, ra-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da, bam! And all of a sudden, he's created this awesome little architecture. But what he essentially did was reproduce what you could do very simply now with our Lambdas, or with our serverless application repository in AWS. So that's where we're going to go next, is I want to talk about how can we solve this problem using AWS. Sound good?
Sounds great.
Okay. Well, before I even go there, just to give you a little heads up of how I would like to experiment with this, I'm going to go back over to our code view, but I want to show the page where ultimately we're going to be doing, or the code of what we're going to be building up. This code is essentially building the base map so that we can have a playground to play with, a map to play with. And ultimately what I'd like to do is, in this map, I want to make it so that when you click on the map itself, so I have this highlighted out, but essentially once you click on the map, I wanted to produce some kind of data based on where you clicked. That could be beneficial for a lot of scenarios, not just weather, right? It
Sure.
could be a whole bunch of things. But right now, let me go ahead and pull up what this will look like in our, just by default without doing any other code to it. So this is how it looks right now. And essentially, it's just our base map. So there's nothing unique here. I'll pull this up just to indicate, even if I click on the map anywhere, nothing's happening because I currently have it set up so that we kind of build into that situation.
Sounds good.
All right, so now I'm going to talk about AWS. So I'm going to go over to our AWS Management Console. For us to solve this problem, it's actually pretty quick and easy to build a serverless environment to serve our weather API. So I'm going to go over to our serverless application repository. In that repository, when I click on available applications, if I type here weather, then eventually I'm going to find our weather API. Let me see. Did it just, oh, it's first one. Hello. So I'm going to click on the weather application that pulled up. And just like all the other ones that we have done in all the previous episodes, there's an application settings. I'm going to call this one Twitch, since we're doing this on our live stream.
Sure.
And then for our app code, I know I have these values in my code file for the REST call. So otherwise, I should note, well, I'll just do it anyway, just so that everyone knows. If this is your first time to being in our on our show and you wouldn't know where to get those values, ironically, I'm trying to click here. Let me do a refresh of this.
It never hurts to see them again.
Never hurts to see exactly where to go. So let me pull that up. I might pull up a new window for this.
Is your internet spazzing out right now?
I don't think. I hope not. Whoops. I just closed something. Hopefully that wasn't a bad thing to close. I don't think it was. So let me see. No, I'm good. Let's see. Let me go to, I know. Everyone's wondering, why does Mike talk to himself? It's so fun.
If just for clarity, so that way Michael doesn't seem like he's completely insane. Peter's whispering in our ears behind the scenes.
Yeah. So I can't help but talk back. Or it could be a voice in my head that I have issues. It's one of the two. So
yeah.
Let me go to projects. So I just went to my profile projects. I have one called Evangelism Demos, but it's probably called something freemium with a date if you are just starting brand new. But when I click in there, now I can see for RESTful calls, which is what I want to do, I need to generate the app ID and app code. That's kind of interesting. Very interesting. Okay. I say that's interesting because I've had one there. Go back over here.
Are you what are you referring to?
Well, let me go back and show you what happened. When I was in here, it showed nothing. I had to generate these.
Yeah, so I don't know. There might have been something weird going on with the portal because yesterday I had the same problem.
Okay.
But it wasn't a really big deal. Didn't cause any drama.
Okay. I have those values that are now in there, and I'm going to go ahead and click deploy. So just to reiterate, because it's a RESTful call right here.
Sure.
That's why I chose the app ID and app code. I did not choose this JavaScript one because I didn't need that value at this time. This is for our JavaScript API, although I am going to need it, possibly. We'll see what happens after this. Let me go back over to the console. That just confused me. I'll go ahead and click deploy and I can talk about it. That kind of confused me because there was kind of like a reset. I think clearly the values that were there are still functional because you obviously saw me pull the map up using the older API key. But if for some reason it has an issue, then I'll just recreate that API key, no problem. Okay, so what it's doing right now, Nick, is it's creating all the resources that are necessary to build out all the code, the API gateway, everything that is needed in order to call our weather API using the credentials that we supplied. So it says my application is being deployed. Eventually, I'm going to get a message once it's completely finished that it's good for me to go ahead and check out, the other things. So it says it's been deployed. Great. So what I am going to do is I just would first like to show the weather function itself. So that means we're going to the Lambda where the code resides. And we could see there's that core API that we were trying to use before.
Sure.
We still do need to, at the end here, to uncomment out this.
All right.
And I'm going to save that. So that allows us to make our calls from here to our, to the here API.
Got it.
Without any issues. So now that that's tested and good to go, the other thing I want to do, going back over to, I believe it was, let's see which page we're in. This one. I'm going to go over to our applications, or maybe I could find it right here in this list if I can get in this scrolling position. It's not highlighted, so I'll just go right here to applications. You see this weather twitch?
I see it.
So when I click on that, it's going to show me the resources that are connected to that, and one of those is going to be our RESTful API call. But do you notice that right here is the physical ID of that serverless REST API call?
Yeah, what is that?
So it's a unique identifier that actually ends up getting used in the URL itself when we make this call.
Got it.
So I'm going to copy that, but I'll go ahead and click into the serverless or to the API gateway for this so we can see if I click on stages and go, let's say, into our staging environment and look at our weather, for the get, it gives us that full API call. And that little ID we were looking at earlier, see how it's right at the beginning?
Yeah, I got it.
That's that little ID. So now that I have that information and everything's ready to go, I'm going to go back over to my code. And up above, I had, whoops, I did not want to do that. Pardon me. Let's sneak in there this way. Up above, I am going to replace this value with the one I had and uncomment that out.
Sounds good.
I'm also going to uncomment this line, which uses that value. And this URL that you can see here is the same URL we now saw when we clicked on that get method in the API gateway window. Now, just because I've put those values in there, they're not even being used yet, but at least they're ready to go when I do need to use them. Where I want to go next is actually uncomment this line of code, which will call this function that was created. What this function does, Nick, and I'm pretty sure you've used something like this. Haven't you used this in your waypoints episode? Where?
Yeah, I use it all the time. It's very beneficial.
Yeah. So in this example, all I'm saying is if you happen to click on the map, which is what tap is, then go ahead and let's get the coordinates, which is what this is doing, so that I can establish what the Latin long is of that area that I clicked. And right now, all I'm doing is saying, let's just see that on the map. Let's just put that in the console. So let's start with that first step. I'm going to go ahead and save that and bring us back. Oh, please, go ahead.
I have a question here.
Please.
Why are you choosing to only take in 4 decimal places?
Just because it looks nice.
All right.
So it literally, because I wanted it to look nice with whether we have a positive or negative value and depending the north or the south. I think it was just to make it look clean.
All right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, if you choose 4 decimal places, do you know if that's enough to be within do you know how many meters that is from the point that you choose?
Don't.
Like if I choose California, is it going to end up choosing something in Arizona for me by mistake?
Keep in mind that I am only doing this when I'm showing it. It's
just for the display.
The actual values are still being preserved.
Got it.
I'm glad you asked the question, though. No problem.
All right.
Okay. So now that that's done, I'm going to go back over to the page that we had for this. I'm going to close some of those previous ones and open up this area here. And let's just see if at least we have the click working. You know, that's all I want to do. So let's see. Let me click somewhere close to where I'm at now. So you see how it's showing the coordinates for where I'm at?
Yes.
So we know we got that working. Great. Now the next thing that I want to do is say, now that I have those values and I know it's working, I want to go back over to my code and I want to introduce this function. So it hasn't been called in, but let's explain what's happening. I want to call this function at some point, passing in a Latin along. I want to create what is going to be needed for our call to our Lambda, our new serverless application that's called Weather Twitch. I want to call it with this being passed in. So if I look at these values, I'm saying I want the observation product. I'm utilizing the one observation equals true so that I only get one response back, the one that's closest. Basically, I'm saying the closest weather station available, just return one result. I don't want all the other areas that are possibly connected to that weather station.
Sure.
Put in our lat, put in our long. Am I missing the API ID and API code?
Yeah, I think so. Wait, no, because you don't need it, right?
Yeah. Why do we not need it?
Because we're now using AWS as our proxy, right?
Right. So the AWS environment already has that stored as server environment variables, so we don't even have to worry about that when we're making the calls from here. Then I construct that URL here on line 45 by saying, well, let's let the URL equal the AWS URL. Just as a reminder, that's the one that we created here on line 18 that has the unique, code for that in the URL, which is placed in here. And then, of course, the other remaining parts of the URL. You might ask, why didn't I just, since that value is static, why not just create that all together in one line? And again, the reason for not doing that is that when we make this code available on GitHub, you could just copy and paste this portion into line 17 and have it easy and ready to go. That's the only reason why. Otherwise, I would understand if people would just have that all one line, if that makes sense. Okay, now, again, I do a fetch with that URL. And in this case, I'm grabbing the response. And from that response, I want to grab an observation. So an observation is a piece inside of the JSON response that is specifically a weather observation for a very specific location, and I want the entire JSON of that. Because one of the properties I'm interested in is description. But because we're going to console.log the response, we'll also be able to look at some of the other values that are available with that. And so, does that sound good?
Sounds good to me.
We will need to go ahead.
I was just going to say, just a early little time check here. We're just about at the 30-minute mark.
Yes. Thank you. I think this might be one of those episodes that will be short, sweet, and to the point.
Awesome.
Because this is how easy this is to make this call. Once I get this get weather and pass in the lat long, remember I'm getting that from our, clicking on wherever it is on the map. And let's make sure it works first, because if it does work, assuming there was no coding issues, then for all the viewers that might be on right now, I'd like them to put into the chat where they're from so we can click on the map where they're from and find out, see if they agree, if the weather is what they're, our API is saying it is.
I only wear Lacoste. You want to share your location or a rough location?
Well, I'll go over here. I'm going to refresh the page with the new code changes.
Sure.
And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom in just a little bit. Mexico City is about right here. And so it says it's scattered clouds and mild. I agree. But now, before I click anywhere else, let's take a look at this response that we also have in our log. When I scroll into our location, because remember, I only want one, because I asked for only one response to come back. I will now see this here. This is nice to talk about, because let's see. You'll notice there's a slight change. I said give me the coordinates where I clicked. So that's 19.4207 and 99.1276. Now the 99.1276 is pretty close. This one here is just a little off on the latitude. Does that alarm you a little bit when you see that?
Maybe.
Maybe. It could alarm. I know the very first time I saw it, I was like thinking, why did it change my lat long from what I passed in? Well, the reality is that this particular piece here, notice we're not even into the data yet. So this is more like metadata. This represents the nearest weather station that's producing the data that we are now using for the location that we're looking at. So now when I scroll down here, you'll notice, of course, that my latitude longitude for this location is dead on. This is exactly what I had before. But the mostly sunny or the scattered clouds and mild and stuff, that comes from our description. There's other values in here that could be very important to people that want to get the latest or the most current weather information. But I'm just making this one simple, and I'm just providing an overall description when I report that. So any questions?
No questions, but I only wear Lacoste has given us a location to try out.
Let's try it.
Kassel, Germany. Do you know where that is, first of all? And I'm sure I butchered that name.
Can you say it again?
Kassel? I don't know if I'm saying it correctly. Kassel.
And where?
It's in Germany.
Oh, in Germany. Okay.
Yep. But I asked for clarification on a nearby major city. It's near Frankfurt, so maybe try near Frankfurt.
Okay, and Frankfurt is, let's see. There it is. So I see Frankfurt. I don't know if I see I'd love to get as close into think I lost Frankfurt. There it is. Oh, it's starting to show me German names.
200 kilometers. 200 kilometers from Frankfurt. I don't know if that's south, north, or what.
There's something with a K here, so I'm gonna.
Because obviously that's going to be the same thing.
Right. Well, it says sunny and warm, kind of close to this area, so hopefully that's true.
Yeah, that's always nice.
Yeah, so that's nice. Okay, do we have any other locations? Can I try where you're at there?
Yeah, go ahead and try where I'm at.
I believe I can find you. You are in this area, kind of somewhere in California.
Yeah, sort of by Modesto, Los Banos. They're all within a good, reasonable hour from me. Oh, you went too far into the Bay Area.
Oh, it's more like down here?
Go east.
Go east, he says.
Further east. Think you're going southeast there.
Oh, this way east. Like true east.
See it? It's at the right corner of your screen.
Right corner of the screen.
Up.
Oh, I do see it. Right there. There it is. Thanks. So I'm going to click there. It says it's sunny and pleasantly warm.
I think those are lies. I think it's supposed to reach like 103 today.
Oh.
So
well, if you want to talk about a place that probably gets bad weather, let me zoom out here. Let me go to my hometown, which is in Phoenix, Arizona.
It is early though.
Let's see. Clear and hot.
Yeah.
Oh,
about,
look at this one.
3
I
hours.
went down scattered clouds extremely hot if I went into the South Phoenix area. Wow. And you said Seattle area there, Peter?
I think it's going to say cold and miserable, but we could be wrong.
Scattered clouds and warm.
There we go.
No clouds? Let's try another area around Seattle. Let's try maybe a little south. Sunny and mild. See?
There you go.
It was very, very specific. So I think it's kind of neat, even if you go to certain areas like in Hawaii, even within this area, you know, just click, let's say on the main island. Let's try that again. So scattered clouds warm, maybe somewhere in Maui. It says the same thing. Well,
I'd be shocked if it said anything other than that.
No. I'm telling you, I did this earlier and I was getting a whole bunch of different responses based on the island that you chose. Oh, well, I guess it's changed. I'm in overcast mild, at least one of them was right, so good. Okay, so any comments or questions on this?
I don't know. I think I'm good. On the Hawaii stuff, though, you have to remember, I think it's like 8 a.m. right there for them right now.
That's true.
Yeah, so it's pretty early in the morning.
That's true. Any other requests that came in from our chat?
I only wear Lacoste seeing the North Pole.
Oh, wow. I would like to believe that anywhere in this northern region, which I'll go as high as I can go.
Yeah, to be honest with you, I don't even know where the North Pole is on the map. So
yeah,
you're doing better than I am if you have an idea where it's at.
Mm. Okay. Yeah, I must have gone into places unknown because I'm getting some strange errors when I tried to go way up. I must have gone like too far and reported some oddities with our coordinates.
You fell off the map, right?
Yeah, I did. So literally. So just coming back here, this is the thing that's important. When I go back to our RESTful API call, we essentially made a similar call to what we did here. It was almost the same. The difference, of course, is that when we're now in our call using the AWS API, that becomes that proxy for us, gives us the advantage of it being in a serverless environment, and therefore the calls are very simple and easy. And of course, you can go in here and change whatever product that you want, whether I want it to be that forecast astronomy or a 7-day forecast or whatever the case is. That's when you go back over into the documentation choose whatever it is that you want to get your data on, and go from there. One other thing that I would highlight is that there's a variety of things that you could do with that data in any application. It returns so much data that you could, for example, if you wanted to create a little heat map, literally, of some of the areas, you would have all that data now in order to go in there and do that. So if you were to collect a whole bunch of information from various areas, then of course using the temperature or whatever, you could start to say, well, if it's within this range, you could have it at this color and so forth. So, just exploring what some of the possibilities might be there.
Sounds good.
And really, unless there's any other questions from our chat area, I think that completes the demonstration. Like I said, weather's kind of an easy topic.
Yeah, no more questions have piled in yet. So I think you were very descriptive then. We got one from I Only Wear Lacoste saying, can we access historic weather data?
Historic weather data.
Or is it only based on current?
That is a really good question. I would say that that's a question that I know there's not an API that's specific for that, but what I don't know off the top is if any of the responses from some of those may return some historic data. That I don't know. So I'll have to check into that.
Got it.
That's a good question, though.
Yeah, absolutely. So
by the way, I should say one other thing real quick.
Yep.
Oops. Used the wrong key combination there. Let me just refresh this page altogether.
So then let's Peter, let's get the his screen back on.
I wanted to show this.
Yeah, I know. He we got you out of
he took us
screen
back.
sharing.
Oh yeah, take me back. Take me back. Am I back?
Yep, you're back.
Okay, so I just wanted to highlight in here that I am using the this API as well.
Oh, fancy.
So that we're not using the old two-dimensional maps here, that this still works, clicking on this map, even though we're using the new, JavaScript 3.1. So I forgot to mention that too. So, you can have that three-dimensional view as you're also trying to, determine, what's going to be like in Tucson, clear and warm, so forth. That's all I wanted to show, was something like that.
All right.
Pretty cool looking,
So then if there's no other questions, you can bring us back to big head mode, Peter. If there's no other questions, so this episode will remain on Twitch for about a week or so before it's migrated over to YouTube. So you could view it on YouTube as well as every other AWS Connections episode or Waypoints or Explore XYZ. So any stream that you've seen pop up on Twitch can be seen on demand on YouTube. And Nightbot just shared our playlist, which is good. You can find us on Twitter if you have questions for either Michael or myself. So Michael, you're Palermo4 on Twitter, right?
Correct. Mm-hmm.
I am Enraboy. Or you can follow the Here General channel for developers. So that's Here Dev. If you want to get in touch with us in more of a chat environment or other members of our community, join our Slack channel. So we are very active on Slack. It's still new and growing, but we're getting there, and it's an exciting place to be. This was our last AWS Connections for the season, right, Michael?
That's correct.
But we're starting something new. We're starting Azure Connections. So the first episode of that is next week, September 4th. It's a Wednesday. Same time, right, Michael? 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time or Daylight Time?
Yep.
We haven't seen it for a while, but we also have some XYZ episodes coming out. So in September, stay tuned for those.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to those.
Yeah, those will be exciting. I think we've had like 2 or 3 so far, I think. So we're definitely going to get more into the jam of things.
Cool.
Any shameless plugs before we call it?
I mean, just that if you're interested, if you or you know someone who is doing anything with the Azure platform and you want to see how things are done there, join us next week.
Awesome. Yeah. So again, one more time, follow our channel. Don't miss out on these episodes. Follow our channel. You'll get notifications, and then turn on the notification feature. I think it's a little bell at the top of the screen after you follow us. Stay tuned. We'll catch you next week.
All right, take care. Bye.